It's the SNL Hall of Fame podcast with your host, Jamie Dew, Chief Librarian Thomas Senna, and featuring Matt Ardill. And now, curator of the hall, Jamie Dew.
All right, thank you so much, Doug DeNance. It is wonderful to be back here in the hallowed halls of the SNL Hall of Fame. Welcome to the SNL Hall of Fame podcast. My name is JD, and it is a thrill to be asking you inside. But before I get ahead of myself, please, for heaven's sake, please wipe your feet. Now that you're in here, let me tell you what we're all about. The SNL Hall of Fame podcast is a weekly affair where each episode we take a deep dive into the career of a former cast member, host, musical guest, or writer, and we add them to the ballot for your consideration. Once the nominees have been announced, we turn to you, the listener, to vote for the most deserving and help determine who will be enshrined in the Hall of Fame for perpetuity. So there's that. I am pretty amped. I got to be honest with you. This is the last episode of the last nominee, I should say, of the fourth season of the SNL Hall of Fame podcast. Never dreamed that we'd get to 4 seasons, and here we are. We're gearing up for the 5th season as we speak. It's going to be just a blast. But in the interim, we've got 15 new nominees. We've got the Don Pardo Award winner, Don Pardo, and we had the draft episode. So this is 17 great episodes of SNL content for your ear holes. Hope you've enjoyed yourself. Let's walk down the hallway and talk to our friend Matt Ardill about our last nominee. And that is none other than the great Jason Sudeikis. Matt.
Okay. I'm, kind of probably giving away my vote here, but this is one of the people that I'm most excited to hear an episode about. Jason Sudeikis, freaking talented powerhouse. Like, he is my favorite kind of improv actor. He is a utility player. He is there for everything. Like I loved him from being a dancing fool and What's Up With That to being a English teacher or Japanese teacher in the Fun Time sketch. He lifts everybody up. Okay, enough of my ranting. Sorry. Trivia for Jason Sudeikis, height 6'1", born September 18th, 1975. Almost 1 full year younger than me, which really reminds me of how much I have wasted my life. He is the nephew of George Wendt, which is why you see George Wendt's picture in Ted Lasso. He was born in Fairfax, Virginia. He was also born with anosmia, which means he has no sense of smell. That's got to be a weird life. I couldn't imagine living without a sense of smell. Now, he considers his hometown to be Overland Park in Kansas, where he graduated from Shawnee Mission West High School before attending a local community college on a basketball scholarship. He is an avid sports fan. He played soccer and basketball in high school before getting that basketball scholarship. He did drop out of university or college, excuse me. Now, he's actually attended multiple Olympics to support the U.S. team. He's that big of a fan. After leaving college, he began as an improv performer in Comedy Sports, I.O. Chicago, and Second City as a Tourco member, his touring company for those not indoctrinated into the cult of Second City. I am a level E improviser. I have given much of my heart and soul to the mighty improv gods. All hail Del Close. Jason was actually tapped to help found the Second City Las Vegas branch in the Flamingo. I cannot think of anything that goes together worse than improv and Las Vegas. That's dark. That must have been. Yeah, I mean, can you imagine the gets you'd get from that, Jamie? Like, yeah, anybody got a get from the audience? I've lost all my money and I want to cry. Divorce. I pawned my mother's ashes. I mean, just things must have been dark. Yeah. Anyways, he has 84 acting credits, 5 writer credits, and 2 producer credits, with his most high-profile post-SNL roles obviously being Ted Lasso, which he's the co-creator on. It was based on a series of commercials that he'd done for Sportsnet. But many consider his breakout film role to be his turn on Horrible Bosses, which is a great movie. I just love that movie. He later produced the vastly underrated Tim Robinson comedy series, The Detroiters, and even appeared in 2 episodes. He was possibly the most homespun voice of a brand. He is the voice of Applebee's for the chain starting in 2012. He has played in 2 NBA Celebrity All-Star games in 2011 and 2016. An improviser through and through, he would regularly attend NYC's Upright Citizens Brigade ASCAT 3000 shows during his time in the city. And I have to say, I do agree with this one. Ranked 73rd sexiest man in Glamour UK's 100 sexiest men of 2017. And People's Sexiest Man in both 2015 and 2016. I just think there's something sexy about the guy. Just like he's got that old school charm. Now, he is a huge karaoke fan. He would regularly go out and do karaoke with Will Forte during their time together on the cast of SNL. And that's continued to this day. He would meet up with Will in New York. They'd go out and do karaoke, and which is why when they appeared together on TV on Will's show, The Last Man on Earth, they did karaoke. He is a man after my own heart. During his time in Las Vegas, he rode a Vespa, the best of the kinds of scooters out there, the best motorcycle. It's classy, it's cool, it keeps the wind off your legs. You just look good on a Vespa. No, classic Vespas, new Vespas. Interestingly, also during his time in Vegas, he kind of felt burnt out in the world of comedy, so he applied and tried out for the Blue Man Group multiple times. He was rejected each time, which is an interesting choice. Now, he credits a lot of his early inspiration actually from seeing Beverly Hills Cop in the theaters with his dad. He was a huge Eddie Murphy fan. All right, that's it. Thanks.
No, thank you, Matt. That was tremendous. So let's send it downstairs to Thomas Senna, our roving librarian, our chief conversationalist. We should be relabeling him at this point, but nevertheless, he is with Bill Kenney, and they are raring, chomping at the bit, in fact, to talk about Jason Sudeikis.
All right, Matthew Ardill and JD, thank you so much for giving us all that great information about the very wonderful cast member, Mr. Jason Sudeikis, is our topic this week. And joining me to talk about Jason Sudeikis and break him down is my main man, Mr. Bill Kenney, my guest for Robert Smigel and Jan Hooks. Bill, how are you doing tonight?
Thomas, I'm great. How are you?
I am doing great. This is an interesting one. One of the headliners, I think, of season 4 of the SNL Hall of Fame. One that a lot of people are looking forward to. I was telling you off mic, no pressure, Bill, because everybody's counting on you to deliver the goods for Jason Sudeikis.
Oof, no pressure at all. I'll do my best here.
So you did a great job. So you were my guest for Robert Smigel and Jan Hooks, and your close friend Robert Smigel is in the SNL Hall of Fame. Bill, well deserved, I think.
Yes. I'm very happy to see that. He was happy to hear that as well. He's waiting for his award in the mail. So as soon as you get that out to him.
Yeah, it's coming from Canada, so I don't know. We'll have to ask Jamie what goes on with the postage in Canada and stuff. It's a little different. So he'll get it at some point.
Yeah.
And I think Jan Hooks should be in. And I think
Jan
she'll
Hooks.
get there eventually, Bill, but she got nearly 40% of the vote her first time on the ballot and 56% her second time. What do we have to do to get Jan Hooks in the Hall of Fame, Bill?
Oh, I like that we're getting closer. I feel like we're educating the younger folks who didn't have the honor of getting to watch her live and in person. So hopefully we'll continue to move in the right direction. Sometimes it takes 3 or 4 ballots. You know that from sports as well. People who are more than deserving to get into a Hall of Fame take a little time. So that's okay. Just let's make it right.
Yeah. This is a wrong that should be righted, SNL Hall of Fame voters. Put Jan Hooks in the SNL Hall of Fame.
I think we need T-shirts. Yeah.
Yes, we're going to make T-shirts and have a little campaign. Hashtag. We'll once Bill and I figure out what a hashtag is, we'll do that and get Jan Hooks in the SNL Hall of Fame.
That's it.
So going into this episode, Bill, I'm challenging myself a little bit. So I have Sudeikis pretty high on my all-time list. You and I have shared with each other our all-time list. The SNN is doing a cast member countdown as we record this, and I have Sudeikis pretty high. I have him 11th, damn near top 10 on my list. You have him, 14th?
Right.
On yours? Yeah. But I'm wondering, and I'm challenging myself, I'm wondering if I'm giving him a bump because of a successful post-SNL career, or if I'm misremembering his time on SNL. So I wanted to ask you, Bill, you don't have to get into specifics maybe about Jason just yet, but do you feel that that's a tendency for people to romanticize certain cast members based on things not pertaining to their actual work on SNL?
I think that's a definite problem that you can run into. I think we've seen that with people like Adam Sandler, David Spade, who have stayed in the spotlight in one form or another. And you do have to be careful with that because it's not really fair. If you're just looking at what they did on SNL, that should be the only thing that matters. Now, if you want to take into account whether they hosted, whether they came back in cameos, I think that's fine. That's part of the whole breadth of being on SNL, right? If you come back, do a successful hosting gig, or you do a funny cameo in a political sketch, everybody loves that. Everybody looks forward to that. So that's fine. But yeah, it is tough because he is one of the biggest stars out there because of Ted Lasso. But I don't think that either one of us has him too high because of that.
So before I went back and did some rewatches and stuff, that was kind of the challenge that I was giving to myself. So I think that's my conclusion too, is we have him properly placed. I'm looking forward to seeing what the SNL Hall of Fame voters think. I have a feeling he'll get in. Maybe we can give him a little bit of bump as far as percentage of the vote and everything with this episode today. But he's just a wonderful cast member, Bill. He's just awesome. So do you remember any early impressions you may have had of Jason? He became a cast member at the end of season 30, but really started hitting his stride in 31.
Well, it's really interesting, and he's told this story before, but, he gets hired as a writer in 29 and wanted to be a cast member. He went in with Keenan and J.B. Smoove and Rob Riggle to audition, and he doesn't get it, but he's on a season that's very uneven, some would say terrible, but he does write some really good sketches. He gets a lot of stuff on early. He does a Jack Black sketch where Jack Black is an acoustic guitar player playing for his father for the first time, and his father is dating Shelley Long from Cheers for some reason. And it's so gonzo and so crazy that this is his entry into SNL. So if we had known, like we do now, the writers, the credits, we would have been like, well, this Jason guy, he's going to go places if he's writing stuff like this already. Yeah. And then he almost immediately gets to write a Weekend Update piece for his uncle, George Wendt, with my BFF, Smigel, a SuperFans redo, where George Wendt and Horatio are talking about the Cubs collapse in the playoffs that year.
Yeah.
So it's really interesting to see how well he does that first season. But then he gets to write in his second season. He's thinking about quitting. He doesn't want to come back. He wants to perform. And he writes a sketch with a few other people from the show for Tom Brady. It's a behind the music. Do you remember this? Behind the music for the Super Bowl Shuffle. Yeah. Okay. There you go. So you must have been going crazy when they did this. And he puts himself in as an extra, but he gets to be on stage with Brady by himself, playing cowbell and dancing like a crazy person. And he catches the eye of Lauren. Now, he's been on the show for 2 years. Mm-hmm. Lauren probably didn't even know his name, but this caught Lauren's eye, and he was made a cast member the next week.
Yeah,
so that's
who the
fascinating
hell is that
to me.
dancing?
Yeah,
probably Lauren and I had the same reaction, and everybody else probably. And I bet Lauren even said that. Who is that dancing?
Marcy, can you get me his name?
Lauren, he's on the staff. Whose staff? That's a great origin story. So Jason, he was a writer, but he wanted to be a performer, and thankfully he got his wish.
Right. And then, so he does the last few episodes of that season 30, another infamous season, if we're being fair, but comes back the next fall, and Andy and Bill Hader and Kristen Wiig, and all of a sudden we've entered into a new era, and Jason dominates right out of the gate. He has 7 sketches in his second episode of that season, including Taco Town, and he plays Bill Frist. He's a friend at the funeral. He's getting into, he plays Napoleon Dynamite in the opening monologue.
Oh, okay. So, does he do the dance? The Napoleon Dynamite
mostly
dance?
Does the voice.
Oh, he did the voice, okay.
Yeah, because John Hader was hosting.
Oh, so, okay. Yeah. That's when everybody had Napoleon Dynamite fever.
Exactly.
You had to be there, everybody.
Kids, you had to, yeah. So he's right out the gates. Like he's doing crazy characters. He's playing husbands. He's playing doctors. In a cast that's stacked, he stands out immediately.
He right away, even in that Super Bowl Shuffle sketch when he wasn't officially a cast member, gosh, he just totally stood out right away. So what are some of or maybe the first kind of standout sketch or character that comes to your mind when you think of Jason Sudeikis? Well,
I mean, we have to start with the a-holes, right? Mm-hmm. I mean, that's pretty early on in that first season 31, first full season. He hooks up with one of his really good castmates and Kristen Wiig, playing these 2 completely oblivious people, and they're in different situations. I think the first one a Christmas episode?
It was it might have been the Christmas tree one with Jack
I think it was
Black.
the Christmas tree one, right, yeah. Mm-hmm. They did another Christmas one with Annette Bening, which was even funnier, but... Yeah, I mean, if you don't remember these, it was a very funny sketch where, they come into the scene clueless as to what's going on. They're trying to get a gym membership, or they're trying to buy a tree. One of them had them in a Mad Men sketch, and the straight people in these sketches are trying to put them back on track and try to figure out what they're... And Kristen and he played off each other so well in these. She was the more oblivious one. He had more of a clue of what was going on, but not so much.
Yeah, and in a weird way, you could tell he loved her, and he wanted to. He said yes to everything, that any question that she had for whoever was helping them or whatever. Jason just wanted her to get whatever she wanted. Like they made a good match, but they frustrated the hell out of these people who were mostly trying to help them in these sketches.
We got trees up to 12 feet.
All right, how big a tree you want, babe?
That's big.
I want something like that.
Okay, well, that's not very big.
It's bigger than that.
Okay, so you want a 2-foot Christmas tree.
What street are we on?
Yeah, where are we?
Look, why don't you guys just look around, grab me when you find something you like, okay?
I know what I want.
Hey, dude, we got it. What do you want, babe?
I changed my mind. I do want a big tree.
Fine. How big? 7, 9, 11 feet? What?
50.
You want a 50-foot tree?
Yeah, we'll take a 50-foot tree.
Dude, we don't sell 50-foot trees.
All right, they're out of them, babe. Huh? When are you getting more, huh? Tuesday?
No.
Probably Thursday, right?
No, never. We don't sell 50-foot trees.
And most of the time it was the host, and they tried to keep their patience until no longer could keep their patience. And this was just such a great showcase for 2 brand new cast members to play, and they did it 8 times. So
They did a really neat trick, he and Kristen. So they made those characters funny, and you didn't like them, but not to an annoying degree where you just didn't like when they popped up as a sketch. So they weren't
Right.
characters that you loved and that you rooted for necessarily, but you still like to see them on the screen. So that's like a fine line to kind of straddle. They're still entertaining while still being awful people. And they did that so well. Jason with his delivery, Bill, babe. Yeah. You know that, babe? Scotch Pines, babe?
when's 24 come back? Jack Bauer's a pimp.
Yes. Their delivery was perfect.
The one with Annette Bening, they play it to this day on all the Christmas specials when he starts talking to the donkey. Loved working with you guys. Stand-up dudes.
And Kristen's just staring at her phone the whole time. So Annette Bening does the smart thing and puts the phone near the baby Jesus, but where they need to be looking. So
Right, exactly.
yeah, that's a classic. A couple Christmas classics with the 2 a-holes. And I know it's very fondly remembered. We brought that up, John Schneider and I, during our Kristen Wiig episode. We definitely brought that up, the 2 a-holes. So yeah, that was one where I think SNL fans, SNL Hall of Fame voters, I'm sure will remember fondly. And you're right, that was his first full season, season 31. And this was probably the main recurring sketch, the main character that caught on for Jason. Bill, I wanted to bring up another recurring character that he did that a lot of fans will probably think of first, that we've seen kind of recently, actually. So it's his Joe Biden.
Yeah.
Yeah. So what'd you think of Jason as Joe Biden from like the mid to late 2000s Joe Biden?
It's interesting with political impressions that have lasted decades to get who's the best. You know, you have the Hillary Clintons, you have the Joe Bidens, even Bill Clinton, who's only been portrayed by a few people. But Joe Biden's been played by 9 different people on the show. 9 as of this recording. It may be 10 by the time this comes out, because we just had another one
was in the 80s.
It was Kevin Nealon.
Oh, that's right. Yep.
Yeah. So, but Jason's was really the first full-blown Biden that we saw.
Now, some people will say Afghanistan's getting better. Well, of course it is. It's the worst place on earth. It can only get better. Afghanistan's a lot like the contestant on the first episode of The Biggest Loser. You know, just because it loses 5 pounds doesn't mean it's suddenly Miss America. I mean, come on, she's still a fat girl. Hey, look, I'm just giving it to you straight Biden style. That place is a mess.
He's running for president against Hillary and Barack Obama, and then he becomes the vice president to Barack Obama. And my feeling has always been SNL was not completely comfortable with Fred's Obama, rightfully so in some ways. Mm-hmm. And Joe was getting more headlines because of crazy things he'd say, or he'd, say something that was kind of out of whack.
Yeah, to the younger people, Joe Biden was like that in the mid to late 2000s too. So he wasn't just like a gaffe machine. You were kind of wondering like what he's going to say next. Just that's not a recent thing.
Yeah, it's not his age.
No,
that was Joe.
That's just kind of him. Yeah.
Where Barack was kind of the straight man to his crazy man. Like that was really the way. And Jason encapsulated this perfectly. We even got to see it when he came back to host, and they had the 2 Bidens, JAJ's Biden versus his, and to see the differences. And I think it's a more subtle impression today, kind of whispers more, where he was more yelly back in the mid 2000s. And Jason just did it great. He had the fake teeth in. He'd be sitting at the presidential desk, even though Barack told him not to go in there anymore. It was just it was a subtle impression, but a very good impression. It's not the kind of impression that you would think of from a Dana Carvey or a J.A.J., but he played it just right.
Yeah, I think it stacks up. He said he was playing a version of himself and his dad. He said a lot of it was in the teeth. That's what he drew his motivation and inspiration for the character from, like the teeth, or like they used fake teeth for that.
Yes.
It was just perfect. And it was interesting because the Onion, Bill, I don't know if you remember around that time or when Joe Biden was vice president, how the Onion would run articles sometimes about depicting Joe Biden as like this maverick who had a Camaro and who watched it. So it's interesting to me that the Onion and like SNL and Sudeikis kind of had the same take on Joe Biden. And I think Jason played the Biden that the Onion depicted in satire. Jason played that on screen like so well. I just connected with it really well.
I did too. And he would tell his Scranton jokes. I'm from Scranton, so that was always really funny. He did that in the debates. He also did that when he'd be sitting in a White House sketch and, just talking about Scranton being a hellhole. And I always found that really funny that he would touch on that. But yeah, this was who Joe Biden was at this point, and Jason just found a lane and stayed in it and did it very well.
I believe he played it 13 times, if I'm not mistaken, something to that effect.
Sounds right.
Thereabouts. But it feels like he did it a lot more because it was so memorable.
Right.
Me. Yeah.
And he had a lot of good political impressions. He came back for his 9th season basically to play Mitt Romney. Lauren, much as he had done with Dana, with the Bush debates and things like that, can you just come back one more year? And because he had a good take on that too. And I think with Biden, but even more so with Romney, it's a hard impression. He's just he doesn't have an intonation in his voice that you can automatically, but that's what makes impressionists so brilliant, like Jason. He found a really good way to do Romney as well. And those debates in 2012 against Jay Farrow's Obama are some of the best that we've seen over the last 15 years.
Yeah, those were great. And his Mitt Romney, I think, in terms of just a pure impression, as far as looking like the person, maybe mannerisms, like true to that person, I think that Mitt Romney was probably closer than the Joe Biden. His Biden was more of a caricature.
Yes.
Mitt Romney, he played that really well, like almost true to form. And he found the subtle things to make fun of, like, there was one sketch that I love where after they lost the election, he's on the balcony, he's drowning in his sorrows, drinking milk.
I still love you, America. I do. But you've hurt my feelings very, very much.
Father!
Hello, Father.
Hello, Tag.
I'm so very angry, Father. I wish I could punch America in the face. I tell you.
Well, now. This is not a time for anger, Tag.
So what's next for you, Father?
Oh, I don't know. There's so much I want to see and do. I'd like to learn how mayonnaise is made. As I like mayonnaise very, very much.
His wife, Anne, I think that's her name. She comes out and he hides the milk because he's not supposed to be like drinking. And he offers his son milk, and Taryn kill him. And he's like, I'm only 38. I can't be drinking this.
That's right.
So I think Jason locked in on something, and the writers who wrote this Mitt Romney character locked into something a lot more subtle than the Joe Biden. But it really worked for me for such a bland human being as Mitt Romney is. They really found an angle, Bill.
Absolutely. And I want to bring up one more political impression. And he was the last of the W's. It was an interesting trajectory with the show after Will Ferrell left. They could not figure out what to do with it. They handed it off to Parnell. They gave it to Daryl Hammond. And they all had different, not great takes on it. And then Forte took it over at some point, had a completely different take on it, but then didn't want to do it anymore. He was just kind of tired of it. And so Jason ended up doing the last George W. Bush impression on the show.
First, I'm pleased to report that this meeting has led to dramatic progress towards the resolution of a variety of contentious issues in such areas as trade, environmental protection,
and national security. Second, and this I truly regret to say, we are now at war with Vietnam.
I think he had a pretty good take on it for being the seventh person doing it on the show, somewhere around there.
Yeah.
Maybe not that many, but it was the most tumultuous turnover for a presidential impression on the show since Reagan. So to end on a kind of a high note as far as being able to do an impression, I think Jason handled that really well. Again, it was more subtle. He found a different way to take it where Forte's was kind of wacky and clueless. He was more of the Will Ferrell sort, where he just kind of found a subtle lane to do it.
Yeah, I think it needed to be subtle and it needed to be less lovable, because I think that one of the criticisms of Will Ferrell's George W., which is iconic, I love it, but it almost made George W. Bush seem a little too likable.
And Forte's too, I think.
Yeah, and maybe Forte's too, but I think we were around this time, you got to look where the country was when Sudeikis was playing George W. Bush. And I think it kind of matched the tone about how people were maybe feeling about George W. Bush at the time. So I don't think you could play it as like a big, lovable, loud, wacky character necessarily.
Right. You had to find a way to tone it down. Katrina was going on, and it was just kind of a burnout in the country overall with everything that had happened over 6 or 7 years. So I think this was the right way to go, and Jason was the right person for that.
I want to mention briefly something that he did in his early days, like his second season, just real quick. Won't be the first time we talk about his dance moves, but one that I came across, the first person in the history of the world to dance.
Oh my goodness! Yeah,
he had no lines. It was just all physical acting with Jason, and that was just so much fun to watch. You barely even knew it was Jason at the moment.
That and What Up With That, right?
Yes,
he has no lines in that either.
Yeah.
But they retired that sketch, even though Keenan's still been on the show another decade, because Sudeikis wasn't there to do the Running Man, to do the wordless dancing on the stage. Yeah.
Yeah. He's arguably one of I've talked to some people who say that Sudeikis is their favorite part of What Up With That.
That's fair.
And I could see that. It's incredible physical acting. Like his walk-offs, like when he would kind of just like how he walked off the stage, how he entered the frame.
Yes.
He would jump in, his slow motion dancing. Oh my gosh.
When he came back to host, I think that was the biggest surprise. Everybody was trying to guess what characters was he going to bring back. And we did get some of the characters that we had come to expect, Biden, the devil, things like that. But when they brought What Up With That back, that was incredible. That was just such an unlocked memory to see them do that again. And that just speaks to it, that he needed to be there to do that. You couldn't replace him like you replaced some of the other characters in that sketch.
We're not going to be doing a Kenan Thompson episode anytime soon, because Kenan's going to be on the show 15 years from now, long after this podcast even exists. So I doubt we'll do a Kenan episode. So this is my chance to express my love for What Up With That truly and deeply. For me, it's the most pure joy possibly that I've ever gotten from an SNL sketch. Like in the 49 seasons of an SNL, What Up With That might be the most joyful thing I've ever seen on SNL, and Jason has a lot to do with that.
I'm rewatching right now. I forget which season it debuts in, but I just watched the first What Up With That just the other night again. And yeah, same. Like, it's just such a variation from what the show typically does. To have cameos that have nothing to say, to have people who are stalwarts on the show like Fred and Jason have nothing to say. And somehow it still all works. Like, Kenan carries the load for sure, but all the moving parts are a major part of that.
Yeah, that's going to be, to me, when Kenan gets into the SNL Hall of Fame, or when they start doing Kenan retrospectives, What Up With That's going to be maybe the first thing that people bring up DeAndre Cole.
Absolutely.
And Jason. Lance, is that his name? I think he has an official name.
I think it's Vance.
Vance.
Yeah.
Yes.
You were close.
Win. Yeah, you're up 1-0 in Jason Sudeikis trivia right now, Bill. I'll try to get that back. So we talked about his political sketches and impressions and stuff. One character that he's really famous for that I think rewatching is very much borders on political and just in a different way. It's definitely a character that has a lot of biting commentary is the devil on Weekend Update. And it was striking to me. I always remember I was entertained by Jason Sudeikis coming on as the devil, but I forgot just a lot of the biting commentary that came along with that character, Bill.
He's one of those cast members who is able to do that in almost everything he does. Now, he does some wacky characters, which we're going to get into, and we've already mentioned the a-holes. But when he's playing that just kind of charming guy, and even in the devil costume, it is striking that he's able to get those things in there. But because he's smiling, he's a good-looking guy just sitting there talking, you're kind of drawn into it, and then he hits you with the 1-2 punch with the biting commentary. Absolutely. Yeah, the devil is one of the best examples of that, for sure.
So what do you think the church should do?
All right, well, protect its children's, not its priests. Look, Seth, most priests in the church, are upstanding, devout men. I won't argue that. But they need to do a better job stopping the creepy ones. I mean, if someone, anyone, ever touched a hair on my son's head, I would go crazy.
Oh, I'm sorry. Who's your son?
The TMZ guy.
Oh.
Yeah. Do people not know that?
No, I don't think officially, but now that you say it, it totally makes sense. Yeah.
I loved his comments. He would talk about what he was responsible for on Earth and to kind of celebrate. He'd be like, you know that ad that pops up, and even when you scroll, it's still on your screen. That's me. I did that. I invented that. So I love those little things. But then he's horrified by certain things that happened on Earth. So that's where like the interesting commentary comes in. It's reminiscent of when Cecily, her last couple seasons, went on Update and did pieces about topics that were important to her. When she did that in character, like when Jason went on, he did something about like the Penn State saga with Jerry Sandusky. He did something about the Catholic Church and their abuse of children. Like there was some heavy stuff in there. But he made it funny. It's like he straddled that line perfectly. He made it light, but also poignant.
No matter what side you are on an issue, you don't want to be hit over the head with something. I mean, that's what's always important with comedy. Mm-hmm. And when SNL can get preachy about things, I think this is the perfect example of how not to be preachy. Like you said, you're talking about very heavy topics, but finding the funny and being able to kind of work your way through it and make people laugh, even if they may not agree with what you're saying. I think that's an important point, and Cecily is a great example of that as well.
And it was so good, so memorable that he brought it back, Sudeikis did, when he came back and hosted.
Yes. We were all happy to see that.
Yeah, absolutely. Where do you want to go from here? You got a character sketch from Sudeikis that we should talk about?
I think one of the other characters, talking about some of the crazy characters that he was able to play, and he only did this a couple of times, and it's towards the end of his tenure, but Marshall T. Boudreaux of Maine Justice.
Okay, all right now. Okay, here we go now. Miss Tucker, what's all this going on about this mess here with all this here mess now?
Well, Judge, I loaned this man my house and I willfully included utilities. But then I come back and he done run up the water bill like something I don't know what.
Okay, that's not true.
Hey! You shut your mouth!
Shut your mouth, boy. You in Maine now,
That's
boy.
right.
My goodness. Now, my wife is from right outside of Bangor, Maine. So when this debuted and it was the call letters from the Maine TV stand, like we both stopped and had to laugh at that. And then for it to take this sharp right turn into they're from New Orleans, but they're not. And they all have these like deep Southern accents from the Bayou. And it's just, they're referencing things in New England while but then it's eventually said that they were stuck in a time-space portal where they spent half their time in Maine and half their time in New Orleans.
Or it could have been that they were part of some exchange program, a courtroom exchange program.
Right.
Or they were transplants from Hurricane Katrina. refugees. There was like I think they tried to explain that because I was watching a interview with Sudeikis, and he said, I think it was with Seth Meyers, I think, and he said that Seth said that he and Lorne pushed back on Main Justice as having no logic, so they possibly added some possible explanations in at the end. We're talking about the Jamie Foxx, I think the first one, the Jamie Foxx Main Justice, where they kind of like the characters are like kind of throwing out possibilities of why the hell they sound like they're from Louisiana when it's supposed to be Main Justice. But Lorne and Seth push back on the lack of logic there, Bill. Like, but do you need, as an SNL viewer, do you need like total logic in your sketches?
No, not at all. This was the perfect wacky thing that we could expect from a really good. I don't remember if it was 10-1, but this is the quintessential kind of 10-1 sketch that we look for. Yeah, I love the lines like you're a long way from Canada, you and Maine, like that stuff like that. Talking about voodoo and jambalaya and gators,
voodoo lobsters.
Voodoo lobsters, and then there's a gator that pops up at the end of the second one, I think, where he's even got his own little gavel.
Yes, yeah, absolutely. And there was a part there, so you got to go back because it's visual, so you got to go back and watch it. But Jason, first of all, Jason was having the time of his life doing the Main Justice sketch. So you could tell, like, he was in his element, he was loose. But when he says,
it's gonna be so spicy, we gonna have to time up to Uncle Orville's airboat and drag his bare, lily white butt across the swamp to put out that ass fire.
and then Jamie Foxx starts cracking up, and then Jason leans in and kisses him on the arm. I don't know if you noticed that, Bill.
That's right. Yes, I did.
He kissed him on the forearm, and he just had Jamie breaking. So you could tell Jason felt like he was just so in control of the moment. He was having so much fun. These are some of my favorite sketches. They only did it twice, but they're a couple of my favorite things from that whole era.
And the fun part is, especially for super fans like us, like to be able to see him work with Kate and Aidy right at the beginning of their tenures. You kind of forget that they overlap after time passes. That's true. To be able to see them in this perfect comedic sketch and to see them working together was a lot of fun. So that's another thing kind of pulls at the heartstrings.
Yeah.
While
absolutely.
laughing our asses off.
Yeah. And so you said that he played this character twice, but I would argue he played it 3 times. Because back in season 35, he did a truly bizarre, wonderful sketch with Will Forte and Blake Lively, the potato chip thief.
Yes. Thought by many to be one of the best sketches of the last 15 to 20 years, right?
It's up there.
It's definitely up there. If you don't remember, please go watch it. He plays a rich businessman, and he's got the same accent as you said, Thomas. Like he's playing this bayou Southern gentleman who wants to become an astronaut. He just decided yesterday, and Forte works for NASA, having a great conversation back and forth with each other, and Forte has to leave the room and tells him not to eat any of the potato chips. And of course, you know what's going to happen. He eats one of the potato chips, and Forte comes back in, counts the potato chips into the 30s, 34, 35, missing one, and calls Blake Lively, and what a performance by her as well, by the way. And they just go back and forth screaming at each other.
Janelle, what would you say if I told you that man right there is nothing but a common potato chip thief?
Potato chip thief!
What?
You have no right!
No rights!
I did not come here to have my reputation assassinated.
Then you shouldn't have taken that potato chip!
You don't take people's potato chip!
But I did nothing of the sort!
That is between you and your God! Now get the hell out of here!
I'm not going nowhere until I'm an astronaut!
Well, I got news for you! You are blacklisted!
Blacklisted?
Blacklisted!
No!
You will never be an astronaut!
And this just goes on for 5 or 6 minutes. Like, it's fantastic. It's so gonzo. It's the kind of thing we would expect to see from Sarah Sherman today, right?
Yeah. It's so absurd.
And then it eventually ends with Jason spitting the remnants of the potato chip. Would you even call it remnants at this point?
It was
Forte's hand.
like spit at that point. I don't even think there were any chips in it there at that point.
And you could hear the audience just lose their mind. And then Forte doubles down and drops the spit into the potato chip container.
Yeah.
I'm so happy you're back. And
well, I love that Jason, so he does some things here with his face and just kind of non-verbally that really make it. So the thing that you were talking about just now with the spitting of the potato chip, I just love how when he's about to do it, they create tension with the viewer because it doesn't do it right away. Like Forte puts his hand out and Sudeikis just kind of looks at him, and then he's just giving him this look like he's telling Will Forte, this cast member, not the character that he's playing, like, I'm about to do this. Here we go. Like, you can kind of see the nonverbal communication with he and Will Forte. So it creates that fun comedic tension right there. And Jason and Will Forte pull that off so well. And then Bill, like, before Jason's character even eats a potato chip, just him looking around and looking at the chips, like he's like forecasting like what he's about to do, but just like you can see the thought process in his mind. Like, should I? Well, nobody's here. Those chips look good. Oh, okay, what the hell? And he does all that non-verbally. It's great.
Exactly. He's never going to notice one chip being gone. And they could have played this where Jason was just the innocent person who took a chip. No, everybody in this sketch was crazy. Mm-hmm. There was no straight man in this sketch.
Even Blake Lively didn't play the straight man. She was crazy too.
No, she was crazy too. So it was just so great. There's no logic to it at all. But yeah, this is one of the best moments. And Forte is just one of those people he was able to work with so well as well, which I'm sure we're going to talk about shortly as well.
Yeah, they had such good chemistry. And almost when I think about Jason and rewatch a lot of his stuff, he almost had a very steady presence, almost like, I'm not saying he's in this tier, but he had a steady presence like a Phil Hartman did. Like he was
100%.
Complete command of the sketch, just very steady hand. So seeing something like The Potato Chip Thief, it was like seeing Phil Hartman in a bizarre sketch. Like when Phil Hartman would do Unfrozen Caveman Lawyer, even though that was more subtle than this, it was almost like seeing that steady hand go play an absurdity, which I love. That shows range.
I think you could make a straight line from Phil Hartman to Will Ferrell to Jason Sudeikis. I don't think that's speaking out of turn. I think there's so much there. Something about the everyman, the glue, and Jason embodies that almost as much as Phil did. He really did. And the fact that he could play both sides of it, as you say. He could play the crazy character. I mean, think of all the newsmen he played. In the Herb Welch sketches, in the Kristen being obsessed with the woman sketches. He's playing the straight man in that. He has no funny lines. He's just there to keep balance between these two crazy worlds. But then he could do something like The Potato Chip Thief. And you go, oh, wow, that's brilliant. That's a true comedic actor right there.
Man, he's a pro's pro. I never felt like the sketch was going to devolve into something or not work because of Jason. I always felt like Jason was going to keep things together. I guess that's probably where the glue comes from in Glue Guy, because you're confident that they're going to keep things together, which Jason did just so well. So you teased that he had great chemistry with Will Forte, and I think I know where you want to go, but I'll let you go there.
Can you guess?
I'm just going to scroll to my note for it, but let's see if I'm right.
Let's talk about ESPN Classic. Pete Twinkle and Greg Stink. Probably my favorite running sketch of the last few decades, for sure. You're a big sports guy as well, so you get this. They're basically set in the 1980s, and if you don't know, ESPN didn't have the rights to major sports back then. They would run things like bull riding and darts and pool and things like that. And they kind of take that. You don't have to be a sports person to understand that that's what's happening here. But that adds to the fun of this, I think. They're set in a 1987 Virginia Slims pool contest, and they're just these two announcers. And Jason is the more grounded one, although you could say he's not quite the straight man in this. And then Forte's Greg Stink, who has no clue what's going on, completely can't stay on topic, doesn't know what's going on with any of the sports that are happening.
Yeah, you're wondering why they even hired him, but
yes,
that's part of the fun and absurdity of it.
And they're always sponsored by a feminine product, which is important to the joke for what Jason gets to do in these. Like the one line I can think of, Jason would be like, if you had to take a stab in the dark, and Will Forte would be like, well, I'd probably kill someone.
Yeah, and then he kind of brings it back because you could tell.
Greg, that's not what I'm talking about here.
Yeah. And he doesn't get mad at Greg Stink. He just kind of like goes with it, but then makes sure to bring it back to what they're actually doing.
Exactly. And there's a lot of fun with wordplay and things like that. They'll cut to I think it was always a women's sport as well.
I think so. Yeah. And Kristen Wiig was almost always in these.
Kristen Wiig was always
the host.
But then they would do fun stuff with the feminine products, and Jason would get those lines. When you've got something fungal down in your lady jungle, gyne-lotrimin. When you've got a surprise between your thighs, Vagisil.
I scream, you scream, we all scream for vagina cream. Vagisil. Let's get back to the game.
And that was always the button on the sketch, too. So he would do this 2 or 3 times, escalate the sketch, and eventually that would be where it would end as well. Yeah. And he would just have this sly smile on his face as he ended it as well.
Yeah, he delivered those ad reads with like perfect gusto and timing. And I don't think he didn't wink at the audience when he delivered these ad reads. He just delivered it like a sports announcer.
That's it.
And that was it. That was great. And he was just like, when I talked about being a steady hand, this is something that I was talking about. He was the steady hand to the dim-witted character, but he still had funny laugh lines.
Oh yeah, he had his own lines for sure. Like I said, Forte was the crazy one, but Jason got his laughs for sure.
Yeah, it was so good. And it reminds me, for our listeners who maybe didn't watch these sketches in real time, it does remind me of what we saw, like their interactions. It reminded me of what we saw with Eric and Don Jr. in recent years. So like Pete Twinkle, who was Jason Sudeikis' character, was almost like the Don Jr. of it. And Greg Stink was like the Eric Trump. And it seems like their interactions are so similar. Like the steady Don Jr., if you could even call him a steady hand, but in these he wouldn't get mad at Eric for being dumb or whatever. He would be understanding, but then he would rein him back in. And so that it almost just reminded me of it. And I love that dynamic between performers, Bill.
Absolutely. Wow, that's such a great comparison. I've never really thought of that. But yeah, that's a great comparison there, where he would rein him back in, never get mad, as you said.
Greg, as the ladies continue to warm up, what's the best way for them to get in the zone?
Well, they probably want to find a private room, maybe grab a handheld mirror, pop down in a squatting position.
Oh, no, Greg. No, Greg. No, buddy, that's my fault. I wasn't talking about a zone where you could put a fine product like gyne-lotrimin. I meant more of a mental zone.
Oh, like a daydream.
Yeah, sure, buddy. All right, you know what? Let's go down to ice.
Just keep the funny going. Yeah, that's great.
Yeah, go back and watch these. They did 7 of them, I think. You could start, it was season 35, episode 3 was when the first one came on, then just kind of go into a rabbit hole there.
And they did one for the 40th, too. So
yes.
That was a lot of fun.
There's a reason why they did. People loved him.
That's right. And there's one other Forte matchup that we need to speak of, right? You know what I'm speaking of?
Do I know? Oh, you might stump me here.
I'll give you a hint.
Okay.
Your hate is like good medicine.
Oh,
John Bovey.
Oh my gosh. Yes. Okay, sorry.
So if you don't remember, they started in a sketch, but then ended up on Weekend Update. They did this, I think, 4 times. And they were a Bon Jovi opposite band, not a cover band, because a cover band likes the band that they're doing. They would... It's such a stupid concept, but it worked so well because of the performers. They would sing the exact opposite words of Bon Jovi songs.
We couldn't be further from Bon Jovi.
But you dress like them and you call yourselves John Bovey.
Yeah? Yeah, well, the similarities end there, Myers. Check this. 2, 3, 4. No. It's 3 separate numbers. 3 separate numbers. Okay,
got it.
You got it? Okay, ready? All right, here we go. 2, 3, 4. 'Cause I'm an Indian. On a cotton horse I do not ride, and I'm unwanted. Alive and dead. Alive and dead. Alive and dead. They would take a song like Your Love is Like Bad Medicine and say Your Hate is Like Good Medicine. and that was the whole concept.
But I love it.
Simple, but yeah. And they even dress like them, like they were dressed like 80s rock stars. And Forte's the kind of crazy one in this too, kind of the clueless one. He doesn't know how to, where a rocker will go 1, 2, 3, 4. He's 1,234. No, that's not what it's 1, 2, 3, 4. So Sudeikis would have to direct him the same way he would in the ESPN Classics.
Yeah.
It's so great. I think they brought this back for Seth Meyers as well. So
yeah, I remember that.
This was a pretty popular one. Only done 4 times, but still, I don't know how many times you could do it. But
Jason could own the update desk when he wanted to. And that's a thing. And we've talked. We were on the Saturday Night Network's cast member countdown together, talking about it was the Rachel Dratch, Adam Sandler, and Jan Hooks. And one of the things I brought up about Adam Sandler was how he owned the update desk and how he made that his playground. I love seeing my cast members play at the update desk. And Jason, he was relied upon to do so much sketch work, but when he wanted to, he was wonderful on the update desk.
Yeah, and I think that's an important mix. I think last year with Heidi Gardner, we didn't see her at the desk as much. So even though she was in all these great sketches, we were missing her when she had made her bones at the desk. And I think Jason was kind of the same way, where if he went 10 or 12 episodes and we hadn't seen him, it's like, well, what's going on? We really need him over there. Mm-hmm. He had some great work done there, yeah.
I love, you had called out like that one as being like just a dumb concept or a dumb premise. And sometimes I preface my favorite things on SNL with that statement. That it's just a dumb concept. So I'm reminded of Jason did this in his last season with Tim Robinson, the Round Ball Rock sketch, which was totally dumb.
Yes.
He played John Tesh, and Tim Robinson played his brothers, like Dave Tesh or something. They wrote it's the famous NBC the NBC theme song, but they had lyrics to it. And they were pitching it to NBC. You remember this, Bill?
Now I'm remembering it. Yeah, I had forgotten about this one. Yeah, that's a great one. That's a deep cut.
Yeah, he could play an absurdity, though. And Tim Robinson, who's more absurd over the past decade or so, 15 years on SNL, than Tim Robinson? We're seeing it right now on I Think You Should Leave It. And Sudeikis matched absurdity with Tim Robinson in that sketch. It was wonderful.
Cassius, I get it. I love your guys' spirit. But here's the situation. If we can buy the instrumental version, it's a deal. If they're lyrics, it's no deal.
Oof. Wow. Okay. All right. Well, you know what then? No deal!
I cannot believe this!
You are making a big mistake! You guys stink, and this network is a dump! And you know what? In fact, I say we make it look more like a dump! How about that? What do you think, Dave?
I am one step ahead of you, brother.
Oh, hammer time!
Cassius! You don't have to do this! One
of the ones where he played the straight man, I don't know if you remember this sketch, with Charlie Day.
Oh, I have that written down. Yes. Okay. Go ahead.
This is up there for me. It's crime scene. Jason's playing a cop and Charlie Day is the host and he comes in as the detective and it looks just like the Seinfeld apartment. And, Jason references it and Charlie has no idea what he's talking about. What's Seinfeld? Never heard of it. What do you mean you've never heard of Seinfeld? It's on TV. I don't own a TV. Okay. Well, you can almost let it go if it was there. Then he doesn't know what baseball is.
Yeah.
He doesn't know what World War II is. And it just kind of keeps devolving. Like, what do you mean? Yeah. Is that on the Seinfeld show too?
Yeah.
So
he's doing a reenactment of how the crime could have happened, and he walks into the apartment like Kramer.
Yes, exactly.
Is like, yeah, that's Kramer. What do you need?
And then he spots the soup on the counter, and he says, "It's like some kind of soup Nazi." Now, you just referenced both Seinfeld and World War II.
Yes. Yeah, that was great. There's a subtle thing, a really funny thing. And I mentioned comedic tension in one of the previous sketches. And Jason has this wonderful line delivery. So we all know, as soon as they show the set, we all, as viewers, recognize it as the Seinfeld set, right? But you were wondering, are the characters going to recognize it as the Seinfeld set? Is this just going to be a joke that we're in on, or are somebody going to point it out? So that's kind of the comedic tension a little bit at the beginning of that sketch. And then Jason has that wonderful line delivery where he says,
"Hey, doesn't this place look a lot like the Seinfeld apartment?"
Weird, right? What the hell are you talking about?
it releases that tension, and then you're just able to dive into all the jokes that happen after that. That's just something subtle about Jason and the writing that I loved from that sketch.
Yeah, exactly. And you can hear the audience reaction. And like you said, that when that tension is released, it's like, oh, okay, they do know what's going on. Yeah, that's a great point.
Yeah, that was such a great callback to bring up. Charlie Day was in the first Main Justice. He made an appearance on the Jamie Foxx Main Justice too. So Charlie Day,
right.
Really, I want him back. He was a great SNL host, by the way.
Yes, he was. And they went on to do Horrible Bosses together. So
yeah,
obviously they found their comedic timing.
Yeah, exactly. Before we get out of here, is there anything else as far as Jason on SNL that you really took note of and highlighted?
I think the only other one, again, this is kind of a deep cut, I think. Jeff the Boom Mic guy.
Oh, yeah. He was like an antagonistic boom
right.
guy.
So Bill Hader played the director, and it would always be like they were taping a commercial. I think LeBron was in one.
Yep.
NBA, read to achieve, take 4, and action.
Take time to read to a child. Read to achieve. What the hell is this?
That's a book!
Why'd you throw him a book, Jeff?
Hey, it's about literacy, Mike. I'm just trying to mix it up. I got good ideas too, Mike!
No one's arguing that with you, Jeff. You've had good ideas for years, but we need this as written, okay?
Hey, you're a straight shooter, Mike. Gotta respect that.
Hey, if we're not gonna do this, I'm gonna get out of here, okay?
Hey, sounds good to me. You know, we should get Dwayne Wade anyway. At least he's got a ring.
Jason's the Boom Mic guy, who you don't know is in the scene until, about 2 or 3 minutes in, when he starts being very passive-aggressive. He doesn't like his job. He's jealous of these celebrities. He starts hitting them with the mic and all these other things. So I think that's an example of Jason playing the other side of it, playing the antagonist.
Mm-hmm.
And that's a lot of fun to see him do a role like that.
So after SNL, Bill, of course, everybody knows Jason for Ted Lasso, 3 seasons of Ted Lasso. Are you a Ted Lasso watcher?
I am, yes.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
and it's nice and wholesome, which kind of halfway shocked me when I first started watching it when it came out in 2020.
I'm not a soccer guy, so I wasn't sure, but I can get drawn in if there's somebody I really like Jason. So I decided to give it a shot, and I'm so glad I did. So
yeah, I'm so happy for Jason that it's become such a smash hit, and it came out around COVID and stuff, and that's just kind of something that people needed. They needed to be uplifted. Yeah. And it's interesting to me that Jason was the one to do that, given that he could be such a sarcastic, but his first great character was like one of the a-holes. So it's interesting to me that Jason could like play Ted Lasso and be an uplifting presence for people.
Yeah, he's really shown his acting chops doing this show. There's a lot of drama to go with the comedy, and I think he plays it perfectly.
Yeah, and he also came back to SNL in 2021. He hosted a really good episode of SNL, which honestly, Bill, I find relatively rare for former cast members. I often do not enjoy when former cast members, I don't enjoy the episode oftentimes when former cast members come back. But Sudeikis had an episode that I thought was really great.
Yeah, the nostalgia sometimes gets you with with a cast member coming back, and you will be disappointed more often than you won't be. But Jason's is one of those standouts for sure. I'd put it up there with the Phil Hartman returning.
Yeah. Or Fred Armisen had a good
Fred
one.
Armisen had a great episode. Yeah. He had the perfect mix. I think when we look for these people to come back, we want the perfect mix of nostalgia from their time on the show and new characters. And Jason's was that. As we've already mentioned, he played Biden, he played the devil, played Vance and What Up With That. But then he also did one of the better sketches of the last few years with the substitute teacher.
Yeah, with Ego and Kyle.
Yeah, with Ego and Kyle. And it was just, and Science Room. He did that as well with Mikey and Cecily. So it was a lot of fun. The main part of this, anytime we see these people come back, we want to see them, at least I do, want to see them interact with these cast members they never worked with. I mean, that's the beauty of SNL with almost 50 years. Being able to see how they work with these cast members they never had a chance to. And I think Jason played it perfectly.
Yeah. Wonderful episode. I actually want to go back and give that a full rewatch. I watched some clips here and there, but that was great. And Bill, after talking this through and after doing a lot of these rewatches with Sudeikis, I don't think that you and I have him rated too highly. In the top 10, 15, seems about the range for him. I think we have him in the ballpark of where he should be. What a great cast member. So I like to end these things with just giving you a chance to just give a summary and talk SNL Hall of Fame voters into it. So why should voters cast a vote for Jason Sudeikis for the SNL Hall of Fame?
Well, as we've mentioned, I mean, I almost think he's underrated in a way, even with the Ted Lasso stuff, because he comes into the show with all these great people and he gets lost in the shuffle sometimes, I think. But as we've said, he is kind of the glue of this. They were trying to recover from a couple of bad seasons with season 29 and season 30. And he was such a major part of starting that third golden era of the show with Kristen and Andy and Bill Hader. He did 9 seasons and he did them all well. I don't think he's one of those cast members who you're like, I wish he would have left by now. I'm glad he stayed that extra season. I know he was on the fence when Kristen and Andy left, and him coming back and playing Romney and bringing us stuff like Main Justice was important to kind of putting a button on his legacy. Such a great career and one of the all-timers for sure.
So there's that. Thank you so much to Bill Kenney joining Thomas Senna in just a wonderful conversation about Mr. Jason Sudeikis and his bona fides for why he belongs in the SNL Hall of Fame. I think he's a slam dunk. I think it's a done deal, crocodile done deal. And I think that I'm looking real forward to him potentially being the headliner of this class. I look at the ballot and I don't know that there's, much that stands in his way. So that's my opinion, but it doesn't come down to me. It comes down to you. And what do you think in terms of the SNL Hall of Fame and who belongs inside of it? You'll get your chance December the 5th. That's tomorrow. Ballots open, and they will be open until the following Friday at midnight. So that will be Friday, December 15th at midnight. If it sounds like we're winging this, well, sometimes we are a little bit. Let's go to the sketch right now that seals the deal for Jason Sudeikis.
A great way to win money off your stupid friends.
If you're looking for fast-paced, hard-throwing lady dart action, you've hit the bullseye. It's the Summer's Eve Lady Stars of Darts Championship, and today's matchup is sure to be a barn burner, featuring Darcy Vancouver and the #1 ranked world amateur Olga the Wolf Bear Boganskaya. Good evening, I'm Pete Twinkle, and seated next to me providing great color commentary. And man, oh man, is this guy a snappy dresser, Greg Sting.
Thanks, Pete. I got this jacket at a thrift store, but I could not find the pants that went with it.
Well, the sweatpants work just fine.
Well, thank you for giving them to me. Wrote you a thank you note, just gotta track down a stamp and pop it in the mail.
Can't wait to read it. Well, now, why don't we meet tonight's players? Up first, we've got Darcy Vancouver. Now, looks like she's warming up that elbow. Such an important part of her process, huh? Look at that. Now, Greg, how important is it to keep the elbow loose and warm in a dart match?
Oh, yeah.
Well, no, that wasn't a yes or no question.
Okay.
All right. Well, she's going to be squaring off against Olga Boganskaya. Now, Olga's a Russian lady type. First time competing in the States, they call her the Wolf Bear. Now, Greg, tell me, how do you think she got that nickname?
Oh, somebody who knew her probably called her that at some point, and then another person heard it and said, hey, I like that, and it just kind of stuck.
Well, now, Greg and I know the process of acquiring a nickname, but I'm asking about how the Wolf Bear is specific to her.
Oh, I don't know. She's, probably, I don't know.
All right. Well, wherever she got it from, it fits. Quick shout out to our sponsor this evening, Summer's Eve Feminine Hygiene Products. When something's gone wrong and it's the smell of your thong. Summer's Eve. Douche. Now, Greg, can you tell the viewers at home a little bit about the equipment they'll be using tonight?
Well, it's just basically a bottle with a thin curved nozzle. I don't know if they're going to be using it tonight. Is it something you use every day?
No, Greg, no, I'm sorry about that. That's my fault. It's my fault, pal. I wasn't talking about the fine equipment that the good people at Summer's Eve make. I mean, what kind of darts are the ladies using tonight?
Oh, boy, I wouldn't put darts anywhere near a vagina.
No, Greg, sorry about that. I was talking about, you know what? Why don't we just go down the floor where it looks like Darcy Vancouver's up first? All right, here she goes. That's the first throw. Nice toss there. Oh, look at that precision. Look at that. Wraps it around. Her college softball days showing evident. Oh, look at that no look. And look at that. 3 triple 20. She gets 180 on her first turn. Throws it with excitement. Wow. How about that for a start? Huh, Greg?
Oh, I missed it. Just got sucked into this word search. The theme is Animal Kingdom, so I'm guessing we're looking for names of kings.
No, buddy, I think you're looking for animals there.
Okay, I'll keep my eye out for both. Great idea.
Great idea indeed. Hey, you know what another great idea is? Summer's Eve, when your man's in a coma from your panty aroma. Summer's Eve. Douche. Back to the action. All right, the Wolf Bear, known for her unorthodox throwing style. Here she goes. Wow, what a cocky move. Look at, an amazing shot. 2 in, laid it across.
Oh, my God.
How about that? Wow, pretty excited about that throw, huh, Greg?
Oh, no, just found another animal in the word search.
Oh, yeah?
Tostrich.
Tostrich. Yeah. You know, I think you might want to just go with ostrich there, buddy.
Oh, good call.
All right. Speaking of good calls, Summer's Eve. When your situation down south makes him breathe through his mouth. Summer's Eve. Douche.
Pete, I have a question for you.
Oh, yeah? What's that, Greg?
Now, why can't you just walk up and put the darts wherever you want?
Well, I think that'd be called tax, buddy. That's what I
I found another one.
Oh, yeah? What'd you get?
Fish.
Oh, yeah? Speaking of fish, Summer's Eve. We'll be right back.
Oh, man. Sudeikis rules, but Forte is pretty spectacular, too. He is on the ballot, and it could be interesting to see if Mr. Forte gets in as well. But this is Sudeikis' episode, so I should stick with Sudeikis. I think we've said all that we can say about him, however, for this episode. So that's what I've got for you. Hope you have a great week. Once again, thank you to Thomas, Matt, and our very special guest, Bill Kenney. You can check out more of his work on the Saturday Night Network, and you can check out more of our work at www.snlhof.com. One of these days, I'm going to update that website. Probably when we announce the fourth class. So there's that. If you would do me a favor, as you're walking down the hall to leave, by the Weekend Update exhibit, turn out the lights, because the SNL Hall of Fame is now closed.
Thanks for listening to the SNL Hall of Fame podcast. Make sure to rate, review, share, and subscribe to the show wherever you get your podcasts. Follow us on social media at SNL HOF. This is Doug DeNance saying, see you next week.